Welcome to the Heartland Cycling Network. And today we've got a very special show for you. It's not really about anything in the Heartland, but I thought the message was very captivating. And I've got a guest by the name of Robert Fletcher. And he recently, back in last year, not that long ago, just set a world's record for riding an e-bike. And can you tell us a little bit about that, Robert?
Yes, well, basically, I started, Jeff, as some way to try and celebrate my 80th birthday. And I thought I should try something different. I never thought I would make 80, so I wanted to do something. And I came across the idea from watching a series on Apple TV with Ewan McGregor and Charlie Borman, who rode motorcycles around the world, and one of their trips was to ride an electric Harley Davidson motorcycle from the bottom of Argentina to Los Angeles. And I said to my wife, "Oh, I could do that. I'll ride an e-bike from Alaska to Panama." So I set about doing that, planning it. It took quite a while to plan it. It took about a year and a half before I actually started. And somewhere later on, maybe 4 or 5 months after I got the idea and well into planning, I'm riding my bike, and when I ride my bike solo, I get lots of good ideas, but unfortunately I seem to forget them all before I get home and can put them into action. But that particular day, I thought, I wonder what the Guinness World Record is for the oldest guy to do something on a bicycle. So I went home and researched it and found that there was a category called the longest motorized bicycle journey. So I looked it up and I thought, well, that record is about little under 7,000 miles, and I'm going to be riding a lot further than that. I'll apply. And I applied, and sometime 12 weeks later, probably October of 2021, they accepted my application to start and do that in July 4th, 2022. So that's how I got on that, and I carried that out. And 5 months and 5 days later, I set the record. I think when I got to Panama, 14,274 kilometers. I'm not quite sure what that's in miles, but about 84.
Well, I'll put that down on the bottom of the screen. I think that's really kind of amazing. I don't know how I connected with you originally. I don't know if it was just something I saw on Facebook, but you were looking for supporters, and it says, "I'll raise my hand. I'll give you some money for it." And it was a nice thing. I was able to follow your trip from North Pole, Alaska, all the way down to Panama on Facebook and Instagram, and watching videos and seeing pictures and almost daily updates of what you were going through. And it was just fascinating. You know, one, anybody that's a cyclist, I think, can get into it. But I think also the fact that, hey, I'm not so young either. And, it was just kind of interesting to be able to see you actually accomplish that. So I see you're wearing an Evolo shirt, which was one of your sponsors, and that's the kind of bike that you actually rode.
Right,
And can you tell us a little bit about that?
they've been great sponsors, and they're still continuing to support me. They supported me through the second South America, and they're going to support through Europe coming this summer as well.
Yeah, that's your next trip.
Right. So they're a bicycle company out of Seattle. They probably offer the best guarantee of any bicycle company that I've seen. 4 years, no question asked, something like 20,000 miles warranty. They were great. They came along, they noticed what I was doing, they wanted to be part of it, and they supplied me with 2 Evelo Atlas bikes. And the bikes have been terrific. I put on almost 21,000 miles, about 33,000 kilometers on my bike that I've been riding, and very little in the way of maintenance at all. So it's been they've been excellent sponsors. I recommend that everybody have a look at what they're offering if they're looking for an e-bike.
Well, and obviously with that kind of distance that you're running, I mean, you're going to have normal things such as, tires. And I don't know if you're running tubeless or with tubes, I'm sure you had your share of, flats here and there. I mean, that's just normal when you're out there.
Tires, I ran with tubes, and I ended up putting liners in San Diego for the second portion down to Panama, because I had probably 12 flats, mostly from truck tire wires that when the tires disintegrate from the trucks, they leave all these sharp little pieces of wires on the road. Believe it or not, I still got the original tires on the bike. I have not changed tires. I've changed a number of tubes as well, but the tires are, I got to change them now. I had a flat the other day and I'm repairing it. I thought, I think this tire's about had it. So I'm going to change that. So they'd be excellent tires. Brake pads, I wore out quite a few brake pads going through the mountains. But with the Gates belt drive on this particular bike and the continuous variable transmission, there's no maintenance for cleaning and oiling and things like that. And the Gates belt looks brand new to me, and I'm sure it's going to keep going for many, many thousands of miles later. If I would have been riding a bike with a chain, I probably would have had to put on maybe 3 chains along the way as they stretch.
Yeah.
Didn't have to do that. So
well,
maintenance
certainly was that a throttle assist bike too? Is that what would be class 2 as they call it?
No, it'd be class 1, no throttle.
Class
maybe
1.
Class, I guess the class 3 actually. It doesn't have a throttle, but it can go faster than 25 kilometers an hour. I didn't want a throttle. I didn't want people saying, "Oh, you just rode a motorbike all the way down there."
Yeah. Well,
I tend not to have throttles on my e-bikes anyway. Stop signs and stop lights, it's also good to get away quickly from a light as well.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to think. I mean, you were on the bike for like 5 months and 5 days on your first trip, your octogenarian Odyssey Part 1. And I mean, how did you keep your spirits up? I mean, you were riding through all kinds of weather. I mean, tell us a little bit about that.
Weather, we had for Part 1, the weather was pretty good as compared to Part 2. But Part 1 up in Alaska, we had a lot of forest fires, so we were breathing smoky air. We tended every now and then to put a mask on or pull our buff up over our nose to help us that way. Then we got into Canada in the Yukon. We had maybe a week or more of cold, wet weather that we had to suffer through. And I can remember one morning waking up and the sun was shining, and what a thrill it was to have a cup of coffee sitting in the sunshine. Then after that, we had good weather. Pretty well all the way down after that, other than some heat as we got further south through Mexico and into Central America. But most days it's like going to work. I've got a job to do, so you get up at 7, you have breakfast, and then you decide you're going to go to work, and you get on your bike and you ride, and you take a coffee break somewhere in the morning, lunch break, coffee break in the afternoon. Then you stop for a beer when you're about 5 kilometers away from your destination. And it's very much the same as going to work and doing your job every day. There's some days you don't want to get out of bed and go to work, but you got to go. And when the days get tough, and especially on long days, and if the headwinds and things, I just play a little mental game. And, well, I think I can get 10 more K. Let's see if I can get 10 more K. And then, I got 10. Well, I'm going to try another one. And pretty soon the 10K segments add up, and the day is done, and you finish for the day.
Yeah. So how many miles do you usually do a day?
When I plan my trips, and I'm a little bit different than most bike packers because I plan a day-to-day itinerary, so I can tell you pretty well within a day or two when I'm going to arrive in a certain destination in a certain country. And I plan it by looking for accommodation 100 kilometers apart, 60 miles in that area.
Mhm.
And if there's nothing there, okay, I'll go to as high as 160, or I'll drop down to around 80 and search for hotels, accommodation, campgrounds in those
Mhm.
areas. So North America average, I think, was 116 kilometers a day for that particular journey.
Mhm. Yeah, well, I mean, you covered a lot of territory. You were in a lot of different parts of the North American continent, the South American continent now. Um, the scenery. I mean, I remember the pictures that I was looking at, and I'm going, "Wow, this is great." I mean, did any of those things tend to say, "I don't think I want to go any further. I just want to stop and really enjoy this and really soak it in," or what was the deal there?
There was lots of places like that you could come across, and you'd say, "Gee, I think I'm going to maybe come back here and spend the Canadian winter in this beach in California or someplace, or this particular city in Mexico is so beautiful, and I could live here and enjoy the culture and participate in their life." But at the same time, you had to keep moving along all the way. But when I finish, I think back, oh, where am I going to go back to if I get the chance to go back? And I have a mental list of towns and places like that
Mhm.
that I would go back and
Well, you
spend
also
more.
put it down on paper. Okay. You also create, well, I don't know. There we go. You're gonna get the book in there. So this is part one, actually. This is your the part one journey from North Pole down to Panama, and it's a fascinating read for anybody that's involved in cycling. Um, just um, to look at what somebody's done and think, well, maybe I can do that too, or do something um, better than as you have on the cover, trading the sofa for a bicycle seat. So I know that one of the sayings that we say in our little cycling community is that I get more miles on my bike than sitting on the sofa. So the
Mhm.
same kind of concept. Um, you mentioned in the book how many times, I mean, you just stop so many times to talk with people that would chat with you. Now, some of them actually were following you and heard of you, and others just reacted to the sign that you had on the back of your bike. Can you tell us a little bit about some of those experiences?
That was probably the most unexpected experience. I never once thought about who I was going to meet and how I was going to meet him and things like that. And it started early on up in Alaska and the Yukon, where, oh, what's that coming at me? Oh, it's another cyclist heading north. I'm heading south. We stop and we chat and we meet other cyclists. And then as we got further on, we would stop at a scenic outlook or someplace, and people would come over and ask us what we're doing and make some comment of like, "Gee, man, you're crazy. You know how far that is," and things like that. How old are you?
Yeah.
And when we got further down into Mexico, Mexico was the outstanding as far as the people we met, the encounters we had with the police were exceptionally wonderful. People would just stop up ahead, and then they would sort of wave us down, and we'd pull in and said, "What can we do for you?" And they said, "Can we get a picture of you with us?" And then they would end up donating to the cause in money or food, water, beer, tequila, just about anything. They were so generous, and it happened quite a bit every day. And when I went for the Guinness's record, and I had to post witness statements, which I didn't have witness statements from people we met. I just sent in 50 pictures of different people that I had met along the way that were taking photographs with. I got to enjoy that encounter all the time. And when we were down in Central America and Mexico, I did have a Spanish speaking member of the crew who could translate for me if they weren't able to speak Spanish. So it was so enjoyable meeting these people. And I continued to meet them, even though I'm sitting here in Buenos Aires. My vehicle's parked in the parking lot next door, and people will come up, what's all this about, you know, because the van is covered with sponsor stickers and elastic art inside. So it continues.
Did anybody actually, and this would be, let's say, one of these pure roadie type people, come and say, well, you're riding a cheater bike? Did anybody do that?
Never, at any case, people would stop and they would look at the bike and ask me, is that electric? Yes. I get a lot of questions. How far do you get on the battery? What is this thing here at the back? Where are your gears? No, nobody, not once even mentioned anything like that.
Good.
And I wrote an article once, Jeff, on my website about cheating, and I was doing a ride, and I had going up a steep hill, and there was a young couple on very nice, expensive road bikes, huffing and puffing in front of me, and I went past them, and I kind of felt the urge to say, sorry, I got electric motor, I'm cheating. And then I got home and I said, why did I say that? Because cheating implies that I'm breaking some rules, I'm participating in a game or a sport, and I'm not doing it the correct way. Well, I was just out for a bike ride, and therefore I couldn't be cheating. And then I thought, if I was cheating, when did I start? Oh, maybe when I switched from a 3-speed to a 10-speed. Was that cheating, or was it cheating when I went to a carbon bike for lighter? Or was it cheating when I went to 33 gears instead of 3? And, you know.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to talk about cheating because we're all riding something, we're enjoying it.
Yeah, and I think that's the important factor with the e-bike revolution. It basically has made it possible for a lot of people to, one, get outside and ride, and probably ride when they really couldn't before. You know, a standard bike, you know, they just got to the point where they were not able to continue any longer. And they can still get out and get the enjoyment. And I know personally, I look at it as physical exercise besides mental fitness. And I also look at it as spiritual fitness. It's just getting in the outdoors. It's just a great thing to do. And e-bikes are able to do that. So you said that you had some planning in your journey, and it what was it, like a year and a half that you actually planned for this?
I think it was probably around January when I was 79, looking forward at the 80th. No, maybe it was when I was 78, because I went through a year and a half before we actually took off, and there was a lot of components to find the route I wanted to take, to plan the day-by-day route, to find sponsors, to find people who would accompany me as part of my team. I was living in Costa Rica, so I needed to buy a car in Canada, a tent trailer. When I was down there, how am I going to do that? What am I going to do for medical insurance? Everything this led from one thing to another. So my days were usually I go out for my 2-hour ride in the morning, and then I come home and work a bit on the planning of it. And eventually it all came to be on I left Canada on June the 1st, or sorry, July 1st, which is Canada's birthday. And I started pedaling in Alaska on July 4th, which is, you know, Independence Day. And we worked in the themes, and I started in South America exactly 1 year to the day. On July 4th, we started pedaling out of Cartagena.
That was your second journey. That's the part 2, where you went from, you said Cartagena, all the way down to the tip of Argentina.
correct.
Now, did
It
that
was,
set any big records or not really? But I mean, it's a personal
no,
thing.
it is a personal thing. It wasn't quite as long as the North American section, but believe it or not, I took 5 years and 5 days, exactly the same as North America, to finish
Oh,
this one.
5 months and
That
five
wasn't,
days.
it wasn't planned. I got near the end, I said, wow, if I just did this and that, I could end up on December 9th, exactly 1 year to the day that I ended up in Panama. And I squiggled a bit on the daily planning and pulled into the bottom of Argentina and Suayla 1 year to the day. So that was kind of interesting. South America was much more difficult than North America. Climbing was maybe 1/3 more climbing in South America. Almost 1/3 of that total distance was in one country, in Colombia. Altitudes were much higher through Bolivia at 4,500 meters, 15,000 feet. Weather in Patagonia was very rainy, snow. The winds in Argentina were so terrible, I couldn't ride. It was just impossible to ride into a headwind, or not a headwind, but the side wind was the most dangerous at 60, 70, 65 miles per hour hitting you from the side. I was scared to be pushed out into oncoming traffic. And you can't hear anything behind you because all you can hear is the wind noise. So it got a little more dangerous in South America because of the weather in some spots.
Yeah. Now, you had a team following you sort of as your SAG support. You had some other people riding with you. At least I know on the North American segment. Were there any other riders with you on the South American segment? Or was it just the solo trip for you this time?
No, my team on South America was made up of my wife Gloria and her sister Joanna. Joanna was on the North American section as well as my driver, co-rider, translator, everything that she could do to help that way. And in order to fill up some space in the van, because I have a Dodge Caravan, the Grand Caravan. I put out want ads, who wants to accompany me for different sections all throughout it, and I had 2 people accompany me for almost all of it, except for the last section from Portamont, Chile, down to the bottom. The last month I was on my own, and so I would ride with 2 people every day. One of them, in a lot of cases, rode the extra e-bike, or many days part of the team would get out and ride on the e-bike as well. So had lots of company in South America.
I remember seeing you offer that on one of your Facebook posts, and I have considered it, but I'm going, oh, logistically, can I actually get down there and do that? And bringing my bike, I just said, nah, I just gonna have to pass on it this time. So your next trip, though, is coming up next year. You're already planning for that. Where are you gonna go?
Well, I call it Octo Odyssey, or Octogenarian Odyssey 3.0, the 3rd continent. We've done the 2 continents now. So we're going to start in Lisbon, Portugal, and follow the coastline down through Spain, France, across Italy, and then down through Croatia and Albania, Montenegro, Greece, and into Turkey, and do a 2 or 3 week coastal tour in Turkey, and then end up in Istanbul somewhere. Well, actually, I'm planning to be there on August 19th. My 82nd birthday will take place in Istanbul this coming year. And again, I'm looking for 2 people who would like to join me for all of it or just sections of it. I've put out 4 sections. The first one is from Lisbon to Valencia in Spain. And then the second one I have divided into 2 if somebody just wanted to come for 2 weeks. First part of that section would be to Valencia to Nice, and then from Nice into Italy, and next section from there to Athens, and then Athens to Istanbul. So you don't have to do it all. You could sign up for as little as 2 weeks or 3 or 4 weeks, depending on the section.
Okay. Well, we're coming close to the end here. I really appreciate you giving us time to chat about this. I think it should provide some sort of encouragement for people to get off the sofa and get on a bicycle seat and ride. I mean, just doing anything helps, but obviously, we're kind of partial to cycling as our activity of choice. And I think it's enjoyable because there's a big community out there that people do like to ride. And I I tell you one thing that I've noticed while I ride is that I see a lot of people smiling when they're riding a bike. I don't see too many runners smiling when I ride by them, So I'm going, I think riding a bike is maybe a little bit more pleasurable.
Oh, for sure it is, Jeff, for sure.
Yeah.
And
So,
I want to
uh,
I want to thank you for your support all the way through. I mean, it means a lot to have people follow me on Facebook and Instagram and clicking the like button or making an
mhm.
occasional comment. I like reading that at the end of the journey or end of the day as we settle down for the evening. So thank you, and thank you to any of your viewers that were following me as well. And thank
Okay.
you for doing the podcast on electric bikes and
Yeah.
doing the work that you're doing. That certainly helps the whole community.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Bob. I appreciate it. And I want to remind the viewers and yourself to continue to pedal on.
Okay. We will do that for another 10,000 kilometers across Europe. Thanks, Jeff.
Very good.